Buonasera, parliamo italiano? No, we don't speak Italian, we speak in English. We have with us Gianni, that is CEO of Greening the Island, GTI. It was with us last year. He gives a message. It is interesting to see what Green the Island did it in the last 12 months. And just to be aware about Greece, one of the partner of Green the Island is George Kremlis. George Kremlis is a quite powerful person, quite near to the Prime Minister. And I believe that one of the objectives of Gianni is how we could obtain to have also Elafonisos being part of the network. Because Greenland did not work in the Mediterranean Sea. They go from the Maldives to the Canarian, to the Mediterranean, to Italian island. And again, one of the goals is how the network could obtain to have a better solution for each one in order not to reinvent every time the wheel. The floor is yours, Gianni, and thank you to come.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much, Enrico, for this kind invitation, this beautiful island for the second time. Always now I mention Elafonisos in all my occasions. It's really a paradise, let me say, and it's really potentially can be really a model for the world anyway, and for this beauty, but also for the sustainability, has all the potential. And Green the Islands, I see a few new faces, so I just recap, and as Enrico said, I will say also what we have done in 1 year of from the last year. So we can move to the first slide. Anyway, Green the Islands is a global organization that target all the 500,000 islands in the world, divided in different regions, from the Caribbean to the Europe, Atlantic, Ocean, Indian, and Asia Pacific. We are talking about really more than 500,000 islands in the world. So anyway, the islands like Elafonisos might appear tiny, but if all islands join together, is really they are very, very powerful. And if we estimate that there are a number of island states that in the United Nations count for the 27%, they vote anyway in the United Nations, they are very, very powerful. So this is the situation. So Green the Islands aims to next slide, aims to support the islands to become self-sufficient and sustainable. Islands can be a model for the mainland. We need to think that even the world is going to be full of islands. The towns are trying to become self-sufficient and sustainable and interconnected. So you can see the potential of testing innovation in the islands that can be applied all over the world, even in the mainland nowadays. And the change, the transformation cannot be done by a company imposing some project in an island, in another territory, or anyway by only one or another parties. And the real transformation can be done only putting together all the actors, all the stakeholders, local authorities, business, citizens, and academia. So this is the goal of Green the Islands, to put together all the actors. Next, please. But let's have an overview on what are the main challenges of the island. First of all, and has been said, and we have been inspired also by the mayor before, islands are even more exposed to climate change than any other place in the mainland, etc. But islands spend much more to produce energy, water, mobility, to run the mobility, to manage the waste, etc. And this is because not of the technology, because the technology is there, is available. There are a lot of best practice. It's really easy. And there are companies that are trying to invest and spend money traveling, convincing people to make projects. But this cannot happen. In Italy, just an example, while in Italy we have between 30-40% of renewables, in the island we have less than 1%. It's unbelievable. Why? It's all related to bureaucracy, exaggerated environmental protection, which is important. But for instance, we take care if a lot of people are not used to see a small windmills in the port, but they see very old ships, big, awful, arriving and stay in the port all the time and polluting. Because if you see the pollution of an island, the most polluted part is the port, because the ships stay there without being plugged to the grid and polluting in the air. So we produce the energy with in the islands with diesel at a cost that go from 3 to 5 times what should cost with the renewables. And we don't understand why then the renewables are not applied. Again, it's legislation, it's bureaucracy. Is a very old legislation, let me say, is a lobby of the old economy, of the fossil fuel, coalitions, let me say. We still have water arriving with the water tank. And so we have the possibility to produce water with in the island, which is even more expensive, the desalination, with $2-3 per cubic meter, and we continue to spend $14 per cubic meter. So you may understand how much there is an opportunity for companies to make new projects and to have a big saving for the governments, for the people, because at the end of the goal, the people pay these bills. No, so this benefit can be shared. Anyway, the mobility again, anyways, we move in the island, we arrive with big cars, anyway, like we need to go in the highway, while we need to do really a few kilometers that we can do by bicycle or by foot, anyway, no? And maybe in the discussion we discovered that one of the solution is not even the bicycle, but just to create a shortcut in the hill or in the land to arrive immediately, instead to do a lot of just walking, which is also healthy. And there are research demonstrating that there is a saving for the public health economy. Anyways, there is a saving for the hospital, for the government. Anyway, not only is an opportunity of health. Anyway, people don't go by bicycle because it's not safe. There are not bicycle infrastructure that encourage people to take bikes. I live now in Malta. I would love to go by bicycle, but people die anyway today in an island of Malta going by bicycle because anyway there are not infrastructures. Bicycles do not explode in the islands because there are not proper business models. I'm sorry to say, Enrico, last year I couldn't find only one shop having electric bicycle, but even not adapted. They were very small, very more comfortable for the town, which are flat, but not anyway a proper electric bicycle to go to the other part of the island, which there is a bit of hill. No? So, but there are bicycles around anyway. A company selling this part of the market. And waste management. So we use big ships with electrochemical systems to bring the waste with the humid, while the humid is a fertilizer for the agriculture. And we don't use this with a proper composting to fertilize even our agriculture in the islands, that we don't use the land for the agriculture more often, and we buy the product from high cost, and so on. So in practically there is a huge saving, but of course it's important to do information. And what what Enrico is doing here in Greece is one very good example of awareness, information about best practice. We need to replicate. We don't need to repeat the mistakes of many people. We need to join forces anyway, to be together. And anyway, digitalization is a way that we are trying. We need to sit on the table of the decision makers at national level, in the European Parliament, at the United Nations, at the COP, because islands together are very, very strong. And this is a mission of Green the Islands, to put together anyway all the islands with this mission. Next, please. And Green the Islands started in 2014 as a pioneer in creating a forum that was matching solution providers from the world with islands, utilities, governments. And we did manage to put together institutions like European Commission, like the United Nations, like UNESCO, like FAO, like the ASEAN Development Bank. We put together all the islands association of the world, CPMR that represented the island of Europe, as Milo as well, ASEAN, the Northern European, the GLISPA that represent the government, 100 of islands of the Pacific, the Caribbean. We are partner of ERINA, Small Island Development States, with the FAO, Small Island Development States. So we put together a lot of aggregation of islands, insulaire, which represent the companies of the islands, the Chamber of Commerce of the islands, that are the real economy of the island. And we did manage to put together also the industry association and companies, from the Global Association of the solar energy, to the wind, to the water, and to the batteries, etc. So we did put together in our network, in our observatory, to empower islands worldwide. Next, please. And so this is a very simple picture that really represents what we do. You see a polluted islands, and we need to transform the islands in a beautiful green destination. And how we do, of course, with different tools. As was said by the previous speaker, first of all, we need to have a strategy. We need to have an holistic approach. We cannot think about energy separately by the water or by the waste or the mobility without the energy. We need to have an holistic approach. So what we do, we try to help islands. On one side, invite islands in task forces or our workshop on the different technologies. But the islands go in the island as well, to help the island to create a committee of the island stakeholders to help in defining a strategy and understand a plan that is endorsed by all the stakeholders. So if all the stakeholders are there, nobody can see, now anyway somebody come that want to do anyway a solar plant in a place I was not there. We need to put together all the stakeholders. So we are different animals. We don't build projects as Green the Islands. We facilitate the origination of project. We facilitate what is the process from when first of all you need to think about the project which is useful. The project need to be endorsed by everybody, because when everybody is there, the authorization process is faster. One of the main costs in making a project is the authorization, is anyway all the paper, is not the technology. And so of course, we need to have a strategy for the island. We need to monitor anyway, where is the island today? Because monitoring is the first way to move forward. You need to understand where you are in the island, where you are in front of other islands anyway. And so we have invented an index that can, on each sector, see where you are from 1 to 5, why you are at that rate, and what you need to do in order to improve your rate, until you become, I will explain later, a beautiful green destination certified, recognized by United Nations. And of course, anyway, as we try to identify projects, we try to find a match of the project with the finance. Anyway, how can I finance projects? Sometimes you don't need the public money. Public money is not the only solution. Some project makes sense if you, with a private investment, if you build a business model, if you have a proper legislation that encourage company to invest, and having a plan of a return of an investment in a reasonable number of years, and without retroactive measures that often happen. No, I give the money and then I take back in the middle after somebody has invested. And then, of course, there are public money for innovative projects that make sense, because the EU, the ASEAN Development Bank, the Caribbean Development invest money in order to encourage new technology like wave energy, like storage, and so smart grid, and so on. Our tools are, anyway, we have created this observatory, as I was saying, that help us to provide the best practice information about the new technology. We have created also a social media between island stakeholders to facilitate the communication of new technologies, or a forum where you can debate about a legislation and so on. I move forward, otherwise it would be too long. So next slide, please. So we have reached around 7,000 islands in the world. We have agreements also in the Philippines, in the Maldives, as in the Caribbean, as of course I don't count Europe, where we are already present. And we have involved a number of the companies and institutions and so on. Next slide, please. So we have identified what we have done from last year to this year. We have created and defined this topic that goes from hybrid energy storage system, which are very important, because when you have a diesel thermal plant, you cannot take out immediately the diesel thermal plant and put the solar. You need to hybridize the thermal plant, but you cannot plug in the solar PV in the diesel genset. Otherwise, anyway, all the system doesn't work. There are a lot of hybrid system that consist not only in batteries, but software that manage the interface between the genset and the solar PV plant, or you can mix different renewables together, and this software managed to activate all this system when, for instance, the sun go down, maybe the diesel genset has the time to be activated, and so on, anyway, of course. Floating offshore wind, of course, I'm also worried if I would not see here a floating offshore wind. But if a floating offshore wind is far away, and let me say, we were discussing during the travel with Resi from the Institute of Monte Carlo. Of course, we need to take care that the floating offshore wind do not affect the fisheries down, the sea, the life down, because of noise, because of other. So we cannot say, okay, I don't like, that's all. How can mitigate, for instance, the impact of a floating offshore wind? What distance should be? Anyway, how can reduce the sound that can affect, anyway? Because in the end of it all, if you do properly, maybe even the floating offshore wind protect that area where the ships cannot pass anyway from there, and maybe the corals can grow anyway, if of course the sound and all these parameters are taken into account. And of course, green hydrogen. Hydrogen is really the present, the future. Green hydrogen is applied, of course, in the storage, because, of course, the actual storage, you can save the energy from in hours or from the day to the night. But hydrogen allow you to save the energy in a matter of weeks. And we are studying with hydrogen to save the energy from the winter to the summer, when the peak is high. That is the innovation. We have a focus in the observatory in the academy on this topic. But hydrogen is also important for the ships, for instance. There are now a catamaran that are being built with traveling with hydrogen. In reality, for instance, if because now there are a small scale storage system with hydrogen, not only big. And for instance, if you have a storage system with hydrogen, if there is a catamaran of anyway very good people that own this with money, etc., right to the island, to say, I go in Elafonistos because in Elafonistos, if I go with my catamaran hydrogen, I can charge my boat. I don't go in another island, but I go to Elafonistos because I can charge my boat with hydrogen. So an opportunity, no, also in that sense. And then, of course, ocean energy, maybe not for Elafonistos, but and tide energy, but for sure, anyway, wave energy. There are projects on wave energy that can be utilized, and they are not so impacting. They utilize simply the movement, the force of the water, and even is our pilot. Of course, circular economy, and of course, we have been talking a lot about waste management, the compost, etc. And by the way, for each of the topic, we have, because Greedy Island don't pretend to do everything by itself. We are partners. For instance, for the floating offshore wind, we have a partnership with Wind Europe. Which is the European Association of Wind Industry. For the hybrid system, we have a partnership with ESE Eurobatec, which are the European Association of the Industry for this technology. With the hydrogen, we have a partnership with the FEDERN, which joined the Institute of Science of all the European governments, plus the World Hydrogen Leaders. For ocean energy, we have a partnership with another industry association, the branch of the International Energy Agency on this field. For waste, we have a partnership with the Zero Waste Europe, a cooperation with Zero Waste Europe. And regarding green destination, well, anyway, very important. We cannot think to motivate the people of the islands only putting a solar PV plant, because the people in the island anyway switch on the light and they have the energy. Despite this with diesel, or do you not notice so much in the end of the goal? But anyway, if the sustainability can create an economy for the tourism of the island, for the sustainable tourism, as the people are more attracted nowadays by place where really you can breathe good quality of air. You know that the island is committed, is doing everything. You have not noise of the car, because the noise is pollution. The noise is pollution. We don't forget that you listen now, the motor is coming here anyway, it's pollution. And so people want to relax in the island. And so we made an agreement with the Green Destination Foundation. In order, they have a certification recognized by the United Nations, by the Global Sustainable Tourism Council. And they made an agreement with us. This is pollution. They made an agreement with us in order to apply the certification for the islands. And we are testing the certification in the Maldives with the cooperation of the Maldivian government. Maybe we can apply also one pilot in Greece, maybe in Elafonistos. And then, of course, agriculture, sustainable agriculture. We import the agriculture. Why? And nowadays, we need to think about sustainable agriculture without pesticides. Anyway, if you think about, imagine a product from the islands, totally organic, biological, anyway, that can help the quality of life and can help the sustainable tourism of the island, and can have, I think, can be sold at higher price, because it's more difficult to cultivate in the island, of course. But if you can justify with a proper marketing the agriculture from the island, you can sell at a better price, have a proper margin. It can become a real economy, not only help the quality of life of the people. I was in the Maldives, in Male. I went in the 7th floor of a building of Male, and I visited an hydroponic cultivation. There was artificial light with the solar panels. There were plants in it's different floors, and they were fishing with the excrement, giving fertilizer for the plant. And they were producing biological, without pesticides, agriculture for the island resort, where you pay $10,000 per night. And it's a business. Why not? It's a business. Of course, we don't need to think about business, but if there is an economy, you can manage to move, to justify the time you spend, the effort, and so on. And we have a partnership for this with the Institute of Canary Islands, and also with the Insular, we represent the Chamber of Commerce of the islands of Europe. Then water desalination, the water cycle. Okay, go very fast because my water cycle is very important because but you combine the desalination with the of course renewables. Here we have the partnership with the European Association of the Industry Association. Geothermal energy, many islands need has a lot of power that can come from geothermal. We have an agreement with the Association of Geothermal Energy of the world. And then we have, of course, maritime port on islands, a policy and green solution. Again, bike economy, and also, of course, air quality. Move on. So I see I have only 5 minutes. Okay, you see strategic partners that we have that I already have been talking about. Let's move on. These are the 4 regions of the world that we are working on. Move on. Of course, we are trying to sensibilize with our forum events, anyway, politicians, industry, and so on. Let's move on. Of course, we are producing a digital event next year in October. Will be our 9th edition, supported by all the institutions, etc. Move on. We have an awards with a jury made of FAO, United Nations, UNESCO, and so on, European Commission, IRENA. Let's move on. As time is short, we are trying to convert the digital platform in a proper digital platform. You can imagine if we manage to create an e-commerce where islands can join together and buy 1,000 of electric boats together, or 10,000 electric bikes, they can buy in a cheaper place. And so with the digital platform, we want to allow this system. And of course, we want to provide online consultancy where you can book your consultancy of specialists around the world, your hours, and you have, of course, high-level specialization. Of course, islands can do a self-assessment and e-learning, and of course you want to apply crowdfunding for projects in the islands where people, even citizens, can finance projects in their own islands. Move on. Okay, of course, island can become member. Already Alafonistas is an entry level. Of course, we hope Alafonistas will become intermediate, and on after you can move on, become a green island member, which means to put together all the stakeholders from the central government, from the region, from the utility, what we have done on our islands, and in 2 days discuss what makes sense for Alafonistas in all the sector. This is what we are doing. Next slide, please. We have done already many islands. We are doing next week in Gozo for 2 days. We have 40 institutions between ministers, NGOs, universities, authorities, all sector. And in 2 days, with 8 specialists, we have a session discussing, deciding what makes sense. And we make a report that need to be endorsed by everybody. And that will be the plan for the island and the originating project to apply for funds. Move on. Just very quickly, of course, we create a consortium for European project, and not all European. We had some, of course, an example of one project we did win. Let's move on. Okay, we have just 2 examples. This is Egadi Island, an archipelago in Favignana in Italy, where we have, of course, there is no time to go to the details, but of course we make the photography of the island, of the status. And in the next slides, you see that, for instance, we understood that, just to make an example, in reality, the real pollution is coming not even, of course, it's coming from the thermal plant, but the transportation is one of the main, anyway, originator of pollution. Of course, we examine what you can do in the island. Solar is one of the best solution for the island. Let's move on. The problem is the incentivation scheme, because of course sometimes the technology is not the problem, but when we analyze the incentivation scheme, came out that the return for the investment is in 15 years. Who is going to invest in 15 years to have a payback in 15 years? So we did this discussion. We involved the local authority, we involved the national governments, ministry, the authority, to push for changing the legislation at the national level. Move on very quickly. I'm going to end. This is the application of the index with a report of what are the problems, very in summary, but we have a full report in order to improve the score of the island. Move on. This is Helgoland, another island. Another example, move on. This is status. Here, for instance, you can do solar PV, but we need to do an analysis, because in Germany, of course, the radiation was not good, so we need to understand if it's feasible today, you know. But for instance, the windmill in the port is not possible because of the legislation. But what is we discovered very important in the next slides, we discovered that in reality they are producing the energy for heating with a thermal plant, while they have a cable to the mainland, and on the other side of in Hamburg there are a lot of windmills, but they cannot utilize the energy from the windmills because for the legislation of Germany, they need to pay a tax for the utilizing the cable that make actually, as you see there, more convenient to use the thermal plant with the diesel. So again, it's a matter of legislation. It's not the technology. Let's move on. This is the rate of Helgoland. Move on. This is the agreement we have with the great destination. I think is the last slide. Okay, I have concluded to say that any problem at all. Anyway, what Green the Islands is trying to do with all of you is try to help, first of all, the island to have a strategy. Try to give the voice to the island, to involve all the stakeholders. When I was in Crete or in other islands, they say, well, we never meet all together. It's the first time that all 40 people from all the region and the municipality, the national government went there. There was also George Kremlis, and we had a discussion about the strategy of the island. So we are helping island to make a strategy, and of course we are trying to, with the support of the island, to change also the legislation, involving all the institutions at any level, because we really want to give a voice at European level and national level, at COP, at United Nations, in all the voice. This is Green the Islands. And of course, we hope that we all together, we can make the change. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Gianni. I believe that you give another interesting message that, again, the concept of working together and don't reinvent the wheel. And I believe that with your Green Island, there is a possibility real to have something that could be done in the different islands, not only Mediterranean, but worldwide. And it's not true that what is done in Maldives cannot be done in Mediterranean Sea. What is done here not to be done in Caribbean. All the islands could have the same similar approach. Okay.